The dust has barely settled on the 2014 legislative session, and yet the governor, the speaker, and Senate Majority Leader Tom Bakk are already pointing to 2015 as being a transportation year. Joining me right now is Chair of the Senate Transportation and Public Safety Committee. We have Senator Scott Dibble. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Julie.
Senator, I want to begin with, why don't we grade our highways, roads, and transit in their current condition? What grade would you give them?
Well, I don't have to because other national organizations have, and they give us a C to D grade in Minnesota for the condition of our roads and the mobility that we offer to folks in the metropolitan area for transit. We know that we have thousands of structurally deficient bridges. We have pavement conditions that are pretty bad all around the state. And then we just have this real inability for businesses to get their goods to market, to get services to market, for employees to get to work. We have a lot of problems. We have a good start on transportation. We have the 6th largest roadway system for the 12th largest population, but we're just not keeping up with what we need to be competitive with other states around the country.
And the goal is to establish a world-class transportation system. Before we get into what that means, I want to talk to you about your funding priorities. Do you prefer to try to generate more funding to just kind of try to get rid of the deteriorating infrastructure that you just alluded to? Or do you think that more money should go towards building new roads and bridges? Do you want to maintain what we have or add on to what already exists? Well, if you're given a choice.
Yeah, well, I actually don't think those are mutually exclusive. In terms of priorities, absolutely fix what we've got. I think that's probably the most important thing to do. Make sure that our bridges are in really good shape. We got a lot of bridges, we got a lot of roads, but then really identify strategically with some precision where we need additional capacity enhancement in terms of our road system. And so we know, of course, that we have a lot of 2-lane highways, state highways around the state. Highway 14 is a great example across the southern tier of the state, Highway 23, et cetera, where just 2 lanes just doesn't cut it. We have factories that are queued up, ready to expand. We have businesses that want to grow in those areas, and they just can't get the goods out onto the highways in a safe manner to get them up to the interstates, to get them then to the metropolitan areas or to the railroad system, et cetera. And so we have the Corridors of Commerce program that we developed for that purpose to really identify those high impact, return on the dollar capacity improvements and safety improvements that we can strategically deploy around the state. At the same time, generate the resources to keep up with what we got. If we maintain our roadways, we can keep them in pretty good shape pretty much forever. If we fall behind, what happens is the roadways deteriorate to a point where we have to dig them out entirely and replace them. That's a very expensive prospect.
So what did the 2014 legislative session, what did that appropriation for transportation buy?
Well, we did a couple of things in both 2013 and 2014 to really set us up for a significant step forward in 2015. We passed these significant funding packages of transit and roadway improvements that just didn't quite make it all the way. And so we really set up a lot of momentum, made the case both on a policy level and a political level. The funding bills that we did pass, both in 2013 and 2014, we were able to deploy some additional resources in terms of bonding out of the Trunk Highway Fund, some general fund bonding. But we know that bonding, of course, is borrowing money from existing resources that you pay back over a period of time. We didn't really generate any new resources. We reprioritized, we established the Corridors of Commerce program, put some significant dollars in that, but we're kind of at the upper threshold. We're able to fund a couple of dozen of these Corridors of Commerce projects. We have over 100 that requested money for those purposes.
Now, you did request about $1 billion proposal in 2014. It never really gained a whole lot of traction, as you just stated. As you look into 2015, what kind of proposal do you hope to introduce? Will it mirror that, or are you looking at other ways to fund transportation during the interim?
Well, I do have to say it passed off the Senate floor, so that was pretty exciting. We just couldn't quite get it finished in the House and conferred into the governor, but we created quite a bit of momentum. And so people are pretty excited that we're queued up and poised and ready to make these investments. And yeah, I'd say look to the 2013 bill or the 2014 bills that passed out of both the Senate and the House committees and went on to their next stop, and then that's where they kind of got parked. But yeah, it would be raising a little bit of money on what we call a sales tax on gas, as opposed to the per gallon gas tax that we're familiar with. It would be a sales tax that would be collected at the wholesale level. That has the benefit of raising some additional dollars, of course, but then kind of like the sales tax that we're familiar with, it kind of expands with the economy, expands with inflation, becomes more sustainable, doesn't lose so much ground to inflation, to population growth, to fuel efficiency, that sort of thing. It's a more sustainable source of funding for our road system, and then put some additional dollars via the sales tax in the metropolitan area for transit purposes.
So, Senator, I have to ask, many would argue that transportation has been underfunded for the last, say, 20 years. How optimistic are you that you can come back from that and that you can establish a world-class transportation system within the next few funding cycles?
Well, it's all about engaging with the people of Minnesota and the major stakeholder groups, businesses, labor, local communities, and the like, the academic sector, all sectors across the entire state, and really engaging in that, that big conversation and creating a tremendous amount of momentum and buy-in about the importance of transportation as a key foundational investment in the success of our communities, of our families, of our businesses, of our overall economy, to create opportunities for Minnesotans. And I'm very optimistic, because I think we've come from being totally out of the conversation to the governor, of all people, saying in his State of the State speech, the next major effort that this state has to undertake is a substantial new investment in our transportation infrastructure and our transportation and transit system, so that we create those opportunities for the state. That's a pretty strong call to action when the governor sees fit to include that in a State of the State. We have the majority leader of the Senate, who we know, of course, will be in place next year, because the Senate isn't undergoing election, and hopefully we'll have the same Speaker of the House, all three saying that this is an important thing for us to do.
Okay, Senator Dibble, we hope to get you back closer to session and have you actually describe what you think is a world-class transportation system.
Great.
So until then, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Julie.